Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. We are at the Political Roundtable with a look at some of the top stories of the week. As always, there's a lot going on. My guests are political analyst Douglas Sloan. We have Dr. Cherise Nelson, political analyst and author of the new book, Visibly Invisible: Black Women of the Congressional Black Caucus, and Howard University political science professor, Dr. Ravi Perry. Thank you all for joining the conversation. Let's jump right into the issues of the day. Happy Election Day, everybody, particularly for Virginia, New York City, and New Jersey. I'll start with you, Cherise. Let's just talk about overall before we get down into the nuts and the bolts. What does today mean politically for the nation?
I think today means a lot politically for the nation. As you know, Harold, I hail out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we had an election for early election or early voting started for a tax, right? A tax that they are looking at in Baton Rouge to try to deal with need for more funding. And so what I believe we're seeing today, I think across the nation, is we are looking at the shift. We are looking at the ability to participate at a democratic level that many people have been concerned about being able to do. So while the federal can't find a way to get themselves together, right, the states are showing that democracy from a federalist perspective is still moving forward. And that's what Election Day to me means the most, is that the states are doing what they are designed to do and ensuring that the democratic process moves forward.
Doug, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in Virginia. This is going to certainly be an historic day, no matter who wins, whether it's the Democrat Abigail Spanberger or the Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears. For the first time, Virginia will elect a woman as governor, but this has been a hotly contested, or I think the technical term is messy.
Ugly.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we're looking at what is unfortunately coming to be the norm for partisan politics in this country. We're seeing Democrats that are finally learning to fight fire with fire and maybe bring a knife to the knife fight instead of bringing a book that Democrats have been doing in the past. So, the attack ads come on. They come on NFL Sunday. You're sitting up there watching the game and you'll see attack ads on either side against either candidate. So it's really been eye-opening, but it's something that Democrats have had to do and will have to continue to do to be able to compete with Republican candidates in this new hyper-aggressive partisan landscape. And something that we're going to have to keep an eye on regarding this election in Virginia is for the Virginia State House, which is right now, I believe, 51-49 for Democrats. Trump is enjoying his lowest approval ratings of his career, presidential career, which are the lowest approval ratings of any president in history. And the Republicans are also enjoying some pretty low approval ratings as well. So if the Democrats gain seats in the House of Virginia, that could be a telltale sign of things to come for the midterm elections next year in 2026.
What do you think, Ravi, about this Virginia race?
Well, I think Winsome Earl Sears is crazy, but I don't know if you asked me that. I mean, every time I see her name, I see that photo that she had with the AR-15 looking crazy, her hair all disheveled. I mean, I don't know what's wrong. I mean, she has disparaged LGBTQ people, trans folks, doesn't really care much about the poor, and she's a Jamaican immigrant, and but friends of mine on Facebook have been singing her praises and talking about how this is an example that there's no racism anymore because look, you have all these whites voting for her, and that proves that they're not racist, and we can go down the road another day about why they're friends of mine on Facebook, but the point being that this race is kind of outlandish. Abigail Spanberger has clearly run, I think, a pretty measured campaign, unlike the Attorney General candidate, Jones. She hasn't had any scandals or mishaps come up in her campaign. So I think the opportunity is really hers to lose. I mean, let's just be honest. Winsome Earl Sears will not be the first Black woman governor in the United States.
There's, I
Harold,
think.
Harold, can I say
Go
something?
ahead.
Okay. The Republican Party, I guess they think Black folks are stupid. This is not the first time they've trotted out a coon thinking that Black people are going to vote for them, right? Like Georgia tried this with Herschel Walker and it didn't work, right? So what I guess I'm saying is that, I mean, adding the fact that she's a woman to now, create a trifecta of coonism is not going to pull Black people to their side. One of the founder of the Congressional Black Caucus said that Black people, Charles Diggs, said that Black people do not have a permanent party, they have permanent interest. And the Democratic Party has been the party that continues to champion our interest. I bled the racism that exists inside the party. So this idea that you're going to pull out a Black person and now Black people are all going to be excited about voting for her, I think is ridiculous. And I just want to put that on the record.
Let me ask you this, Doug. Two questions for you. First of all, because Ravi mentioned this, and I really want to hear your opinion. You can be a supporter of the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, without having to have literature or campaigns holding an assault rifle. Do you believe that even for Black people who support the Second Amendment, do you believe that those ads turn them off? Do you think that they have problems with those ads? I mean, she could say she's a member. They could have a photograph of her at the gun range, just like normal people. That's my first question. What's your opinion about that?
Well, I think that Sears is trying to appeal to some of the far right-wing, dyed-in-the-wool red state Republicans that actually would go for that type of stuff. That the Second Amendment is their front burner issue, and that if they see someone with a gun, they could get their vote. Unfortunately for Sears, as Sharice pointed out, she's Black. And those people often don't vote for Black candidates, no matter what they have in their hands or no matter what they're saying. That part of the Republican Party harbors a lot of racists and a lot of racism. So her trying to make an appeal for that part of the Republican Party really just doesn't make any sense. And of course, it's going to scare normal people off. You want to get away from gun violence and guns. And many people think that, even some people support the Second Amendment, obviously, but most people actually support reasonable gun control legislation. And when you come across with an AR-15 in your hand, a weapon of war, a weapon that was field tested for Vietnam, that is going to turn a lot of sensible gun owners off. So I really don't know what she's doing, because I don't think that's going to win her any measurable voters in this election.
Real quick, Jason Miyares, Doug, the earlier polls had Jay Jones leading, but that October surprise, the revealing of those text messages where he talked about bullets for state delegates years ago, way back in 2022, that may have changed things. Do you think that that we could see an upset based on just the polls?
You mean an upset as far as Jay Jones losing?
Yeah, exactly.
That's very possible. I saw some of those text messages, and they're just inexcusable. I mean, I don't know what you were thinking. I don't know what your mindset was when you were typing something like that. Millennials, in particular, have to be very aware of social media and electronic media. Gen Xers, we're not going to get too deep into that. If you're going to catch us, it's going to have to be live and in color in real life. But for a lot of the millennials that just pour out their lives and all of their thoughts and everything on the social media, you really have to be careful about that. And I mean, some of the stuff he was saying is just inexcusable. So I can definitely identify with people that have apprehension about voting for someone that would stay and think things like that.
Robbie, let's talk about the bigger picture. It has been suggested that the Virginia race, as well as the New Jersey race and the New York City race, are bellwether issues for 2026. What say you?
Well, I'm sitting right now in Michigan, and Detroit's about to elect their first Black woman governor today. And you have places like my hometown in Toledo, Ohio, where there's a large white voting population, the so-called disaffected white union moderate voter. And all the talking heads on the Democratic Party are acknowledging that they have to go back to a more moderate tone in order to win in 2026. Something that Mamandi does not represent, obviously, in New York. Something that the former Buffalo Democratic primary mayor candidate she did not represent, who ran as a socialist and then went and got beat by the incumbent mayor running as an independent. Progressives have to understand that there's a way to win. There's another way to govern. Brandon Johnson's having a hard time in Chicago. Lumumba had a hard time in Jackson. We have with these progressives who are winning in cities and with narratives where you can win the Democratic primary. That is very, very important. But the challenge is that you what you need is the ability to not just win in local districts and just win your primaries. And even while you may end up winning the election, you then have to be able to govern. Can you govern with a state legislature or with a president that is further to the right than you are? And it can't just be, oh, I'm right and you're wrong. Progressives have to find a way to engage the middle Democratic voter, and the party has to find a way to be able to fight back on these redistricting challenges in nearly every state, including the one I'm in now, Michigan, including Ohio, where I'll be in a few minutes, and including states, in the DMV area, but particularly Texas, particularly California. We've never had mid-year redistricting like this. This is unusual. This is constitutionally really problematic. I don't know why there haven't been more serious legal challenges, other than the fact that the Supreme Court, of course, is in the pocket of the current occupant in the White House. And so you don't have any normal sense of constitutional order here. But if Democrats want to have a win in 2026, they're going to have to spend more time in the places where I am right now in the Midwest. And they're going to actually have to invest in these cities, which means, in the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s, Democrats used to win in cities, and states like Ohio and Michigan were not guaranteed, quote unquote, red like they are now, talked about in the media. These states did not change. All these cities have mayors who are all Democrats and have been, and never elected a Republican in 50 something years. But if you only get 20% of that voter turnout in those cities, then those rural and those suburban voters can in fact outpace you.
Well,
And so Democrats have to remember to invest in your Democratic voters who live in your urban cities. Guaranteed votes in states that are purple or red.
Sharice,
well,
hold on, Sharice. I know you want to comment on this, and I want to hear what you have to say, but I'm so close to the break that I'm going to go ahead and take it, and then we'll pick this conversation up on the other side because it is getting juicy. We are going to take a break, but don't forget you can hear this in every edition of the Daily Drum Insight segment via podcast on WHUR.com. The original Quiet Storm with Raheem Devon is next on WHUR-FM. This conversation continues on Sirius XM, channel 141 and 96.3 HD2 in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM, channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue at the Political Roundtable with a look at some of the top stories of the week. My guests are Dr. Sharice Nelson, political analyst and author of the new book, Visibly Invisible, Black Women of the Congressional Black Caucus, Howard University political science professor, Dr. Ravi Perry, and political analyst, Douglas Sloan. Before the break, Sharice, you were going to jump all over Dr. Perry's head. Go ahead and jump.
No, I'm not going to jump all over his head, but I am going to present an alternative narrative.
Okay.
I understand that Democrats want to go. Let's first establish the Democratic Party is a big tent, and if you go to Doug's point, it's a lot easier to whistleblow holding AR-15s, and it's a lot easier to win on the Republican side, right? If you're the right hue. Because there's a couple of dog whistles you whistle at and people gather around to drink from that Kool-Aid. Where on the Democratic side, it's a big tent, and they've always sold themselves as a party of a big tent, and it's very difficult, right, in many ways, to get everybody in the tent to agree. But push back on is Democrats have spent a lot of money in the Midwest, and they need to come south. If you want to win, you need to engage your strongest ally in voting, Black folks. Mississippi and Louisiana are the two blackest states in the United States. We have Louisiana, I believe, is 32 or 38% Black. You are not spending even a third of the money there in places where they could actually win. I don't disagree that you need to engage in the inner city and your reliable voters in the Midwest. But to do it at the expense of engaging Black folks in places where you can win, I think that it is negligent. And I also think that it is saying to the Black coalition that is inside of your tent that we don't matter. And I think that's extremely important because if we're thinking about redistricting, as Dr. Perry has articulated very clearly here, that redistricting, Harold, is to dismantle the Congressional Black Caucus as we know it. That is one of the biggest reasons that we're looking at this redistricting. And where are they going? They're going in southern states to pick off the Black representatives. We even have to remember that the reason that we have so many Black people in Midwestern and Western cities is because of a migration that happened over a span of time. Well, if you look at the Obama effect, and because of COVID, we are seeing a repatriation of the South because many of those Black people that lived in the Midwest or in New York are traveling back south for a cheaper way of living.
But hold on, I don't want to get too far afield because my question was this a bellwether for 2026 and a message for
that's my point. My point is to keep having a conversation about the Midwest and the North being the bellwether without engaging the South side of the conversation. I think is what I'm saying is but that's my point, Harold. Say that the Midwest and the North is the only place that we should be looking for bellwether, I think then takes out a large part of the conversation of the southern states that are the target of this redistricting.
So you're not wrong, but I would add a couple things. As we all know, presidential elections that Democrats have lost fighting against the Orange Man have been lost in the Midwest. They've been lost because of Black folks. This is where Black folks get mad at me, social media, etc. But they've been lost not solely because of Black folks, not because of white women and all that other stuff either. They've been lost because urban voters in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Detroit, Michigan did not come out at expected numbers based on the polling and the investment. And what that means is that you have to go back to those cities, and most of them are Black in those cities. In Detroit's 80% Black, for example. Cleveland 55% Black. But if we don't get our own community out in the Midwest, where we can make a big difference, then in measurable numbers, Hillary Clinton lost by 77,000 votes. Black folks could have made that up in Detroit alone. Like, so now, should we be the saviors of the Democratic Party? No.
No.
Should we be the saviors again of the American, racial, experiment of tragedy? No. But if we can do it, and we're in places where we could have done it, and we didn't show up because we believe the rope-a-dope of the efforts of folks to try to get Black folks to be targeted with misinformation, then that's our own community failing on educating our own people. Yes, we need to be in the South. Mississippi is important. It is 40% Black. So is South Carolina. Now, I will say the South doesn't really have a lot of electoral votes outside of Florida and Texas and Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah.
And we need to be in North Carolina again. But I'm just talking about Black folks living in cities. We should be voting at 70, 80, 90 percentile of our expected ability. You can't blame voter suppression on Black folks not showing up in Detroit, Michigan, when everybody
I've got to move on. We got so many other topics. Doug, day 35 at midnight tonight for the shutdown. Now the longest federal government shutdown. Still no end in sight. I mean, I could write the same news script that I wrote yesterday on day 1 and day 5 and day 17, where the Speaker of the House and the Minority Leader and Chuck Schumer and John Thune are still, they're saying the same thing every single day. How is this going to get fixed?
Well, funny you should bring that up. I just read an article this morning that a quartet of lawmakers, I think from the Common Sense Caucus in the House, has got together and have outlined a framework for addressing the extension, a compromise on addressing the extension on Obamacare subsidies. And they worked on that, and they haven't got everybody to buy into it yet. It is bipartisan. Two House members, I think, from Nebraska and Colorado, and then 2 Democrats. This is how it gets started. Some people within the caucus down in Congress just say, hey, we're not getting anywhere. Everybody's getting screwed. We have to figure out a way out of this. And the fact that we do have a statement of principles on a bipartisan compromise that is being pushed forward and worked on is a positive a sign to try to get out of this morass, because right now the leaders of each party are not budging, and people losing their health care and seeing those subsidies rise by 100% in 2026 is something that is untenable, frankly, for the majority of Americans. So I am happily buoyed by this type of movement, and I hope that something like this will continue to move forward. Everybody can buy on, and we can get out of this shutdown, because it is hurting a lot of
Sharice, this is terrible. We are seeing more and more federal government workers. We've not seen lines for food banks like this since the pandemic, and it is certainly heartbreaking. The Trump administration has already said, in addition, what Doug was saying earlier about this group of representatives trying to come together and figure this out is one thing, but the Trump administration also saying today, the president specifically saying that he would withhold SNAP benefits until this.
Yeah, so that's my whole point. This whole idea about a common sense caucus and all of that sounds nice, but that's not the reality. And the reality here is that we are trying to frame the shutdown over an issue over subsidies. And I appreciate that's the framing, but that's not really what this is about. Because if it was just about a government shutdown, then the House would be at work, and they're still not at work. This is not about a shutdown. This is about the fact that the House is getting ready to lose its ability to hold on to its majority. They had a special election down in Arizona, and if Mike Johnson calls them back into session, they have to swear her in. If they swear her in, now they're imbalanced. You already got one of your most ardent supporters, Marjorie Taylor Greene, bad Bill Butchbody, who is already in many ways navigated away from the party lines of what's going on. So we can frame this around Medicare. I mean, we can frame this around the subsidies, and I don't disagree that is the stake in the ground for Democrats. But that's not what this shutdown is about, because the Senate's at work and the House still isn't. This is about the fact that Republicans know that they're getting ready to lose their majority in the House, and that all funding bills have to start in the House. A civic lesson for all of your listeners: all funding bills have to start in the House of Representatives, because funding needs to be closest to the people. So if we in a shutdown, it's not going to be over these subsidies. It's going to be about the entire government and where money is going completely. We have rerouted money to go into ICE. We have rerouted money all over the place. So what they are very much scared of and afraid of is not just the subsidies. It's about the fact that they are going to now have to break open the budget and reroute money all over the place. And the longer they can stall this and wait out, the longer it won't happen. So SNAP, all of these other things that we're going to talk about, or that are on the table, they are a factor. But the biggest factor here is the Republicans know they're getting ready to lose power in the House, and upsetting that power essentially relitigates the entire budget.
I want to talk about a local issue, and I'll start with you, Ravi, because this has been particularly this year in the District of Columbia, a particularly concerning issue, and that is about juvenile curfews. The council is supposed to vote today on a permanent juvenile curfew, something that the police chief and the mayor want. There was a hearing last week, and there was a lot of pushback from some members of the council over this. The council member Louis George even saying that they hadn't, some members of the council had not been communicated with. But I'm not even going to get into the political machinations. But the reality is, and is that we've seen more juveniles, as the mayor says, acting out. They acted out during Halloween, the week before. Is this a solution? A permanent curfew?
No, it's not the solution, and it's anti-Black. And I'm really tired of Muriel Bowser being anti-Black, but I'm not surprised, because it happens every single day. From traffic cameras in the hood to not giving a damn about us failing 4th, 6th, 8th, 9th grade reading math levels, and now this. And she constantly gets away with it. She's an example of a third-term, Black mayor, woman, large, major city, and she earns her stripes for that. But when it comes to our Black people better in D.C. because Muriel Bowser has been mayor, that's not only the case for Black residents like me, but that's the case certainly for our Black youth, who are absolutely not better under Muriel Bowser's leadership. And there's, I can talk about this all day. I will say, for the record, I'm an elected advisory neighborhood commissioner in Ward 7. And there are a lot of challenges that we get from the 6th District Police Department reports we receive every month with youth crime. I've had my own car stolen by teenage Black kids in front of my house. This is a real challenge. It's a difficult challenge. But we've seen these curfews instilled in other cities, and it never works. And that's just simply what the data says. It never works. And it's always a temporary measure, a Band-Aid. What you need is a more long-term measure. Where are the jobs for these young Black youth? Where are the community centers that are open until midnight, not closed at 5 o'clock? They can't even get there by the time the thing is shut down. Where are the opportunities for them to go work in her administration? She borrows the mayor for life. Green colors. She always tries to lean in on the Marion Barry kind of image and quiet ways. But let's be clear, this mayor is a Ward 4. No offense, my family's from Ward 4 too, but she's a Ward 4 upper. What they call New York Upper East Side. She's from the upper side of DC, where she did not grow up historically with these kinds of challenges. Represented a more higher middle class Black community when she was on council. Never has lived in Southeast herself, and so this is an easy Band-Aid problem for her. And I love our police chief. Pamela Smith. I think she's doing as good of a job as you can in a dangerous city. Now, I would also say that I thought the National Guard, was supposed to eliminate all these problems, but that's allegedly what Trump said he was going to do, that I would fix everything. So it is a huge problem, but I want to emphasize the fact that we're talking about Black kids in a Black city with all Black elected officials. If we can't fix this problem, it's our problem. We should not be waiting on white folks to fix it. You cannot be blaming President Trump for it, which is why I didn't run with that line. This is Black kids in the Black city. It's our problem. We should be fixing it, and it starts at the top. And I would just ask people, let's do a community town hall on just Black youth in DC at all, and see what comes out in the meetings. And you can actually look at this by looking.
Okay,
at
so hold on, Robbie. Let me bring Doug in this. Doug, I'm sure you have some thoughts.
Well, actually, just in terms of what he was saying, I just want to push back a little bit. Muriel is not from Ward 4. She grew up in Ward 5 in Northeast, I think Michigan Park or Woodridge or something like that. So she's not from the Gold Coast and wasn't in part of the whole Jack and Jill private schools things. So she did grow up in Northeast. She grew up in a working class family in Northeast. Later on, of course, she came to represent Ward 4, but I think she only moved up to Shepherd Park Colonial Village about 8, maybe 10 years ago in her late 40s or mid to late 40s. So I will push back on that a little bit, but absolutely, you're right. It is an issue that we as Black people within this city have to deal with. We have to get our hands around it. I can, I have a teenager living in my house. I know what it's like to be a father to some of these youth, and he's out there trying to run around with all of his friends, and I have to threaten him on a daily basis about what he's going to do when he leaves this house and what he's not going to do. And so, a lot of this is going to fall on the parents, because I can tell you that my son, who is 15 years old, is not going out there causing any problems because he's going to be worried about me when he gets back home. So, this also has to fall on some of the parents in terms of, what are you doing regarding your children? They're out late at night. You know where they are. You know what they're doing. Why are they out? Are you trying to help them get through some of the mishigas that is being a young teenager in a major city? But I agree with you 100%. It is an issue that we all need to take hold of. We all need to seek to address and do our part to solve, because it's not going anywhere and it is getting out of control.
Well, we don't have a council of elders. We don't have a council of elders that can have the conversation. The problem is that I think that both of you guys have very good points, but we're looking for government to solve this, and that's not the place it should be solved. We have no council of elders. We have no place, right? We've broken down community, like Robbie said. There's no community center to go to. There are very few churches that are involved. There are very few mosques. Where is the religious element, the nonprofit element? There is no council of elders that can sit down and have this conversation. Because if we get to a permanent curfew, who is going to then be implementing a permanent curfew? Police, right?
Yes.
And so now we are back. Now we are back to criminalizing, and we're back to a criminal element to our Black kids that we're trying to send the exact opposite message to. So I agree that there has to be a balance of a solution, but the biggest problem is we have no council of elders, we have no strong community, and there is not a older voice in the communities that says enough is enough, and this is how we're going to move forward.
So Sharice, so what do you say to those, those Black mothers or Black aunties and grandmas who are tired of these young people, running the streets, stealing cars? That incident, or what is it, Ravi? It was on Rhode Island and 7th a week or so ago, where a man literally snatched out of his car. Okay. And I think the technical term for that is crazy. That if you are sitting in your car minding your own business and some young people come up and jack you and snatch you out of your ride. And so what do you say, Sharice, when somebody says, well, while we're waiting on this council of elders, what are you going to do? And of course they're going to come to the police. They're going to call their council member
but
young people
exactly
say,
right.
Who's going to check me, boo?
Right. But get your council member, get your Ravi in your neighborhood, get your council person in the neighborhood, get them all to come meet at the church and sit everybody down at the church with the pastor and the mamas and say, don't you have some deacons here? Don't y'all have some level of leadership here? Because the mothers are tired, and you're raising young Black men and women who have no guidance and direction. Make the organizations in the community do their jobs.
But they are. I mean, I interview them on this program, and these nonprofits, and some of them are. These are not, even nonprofits. These are grassroots folks who are doing it, but they are not. They obviously need more help.
They're doing it in silos, Harold. They're doing it in silos. They're not doing it. I said a council of elders, not a elder, right? They're doing this work in silos. The problem is that when you do the work in silos, it never is going to work. You're in like Ravi said, you're in one of the Blackest cities in the United States. Harold, you a Kappa. You would go down there once a month to come meet about what to do and set up patrols with Kappas and Alphas. I mean, Ravi, you a Kappa. There are Greek letter organizations. There are women groups organizations. There are religious organizations. You want to know why it's not happening? Because we are working in silos. There is no council. It's my organization over here trying to do this, and your organization over here trying to do this. Get everybody together. Get everybody in one room. Have a trusted voice from each of those constituencies and sit down and come with a plan. The same way Doug said that they're trying to do to get the House open. The same way they're trying to get the House to come back. The Common Sense Caucus has got together. Negroes need to sit down at somebody's church or at somebody's community center and stop working in silos.
Okay.
Now,
hold on. I'm really low on time. I've got to get some of these other issues, and so I need to go back outside our local area, and we've got two international issues. Jamaica is suffering horribly right now, certainly the western part of the island, but all the way into Montego Bay. No cell service, no running water, no power. It is hot. They're finding bodies in houses, and the like. Trump administration said last week, yes, we're sending help. Maybe I've missed it, Ravi, but the ones that I've seen, Task Force 1 from Virginia. I mean, these are the folks who always seem to put the capes on when the world is falling apart. But other than that, haven't seen a whole lot of help. What is it going to take to save and rebuild Jamaica, Ravi?
Well, I mean, the National Guard should be in Jamaica, not in my backyard in D.C., wondering what the hell I'm doing. That's first problem. And you know, if we had a president that used the National Guard for appropriate issues like this, appropriate deployments like this, that really, you know, tells the story of so-called American generosity around the world, then they would be there. But this president doesn't care about Jamaica because Jamaica's black. So let's be very blunt and clear about that. He also isn't someone who travels. He doesn't know where Jamaica is. And so this is not, and Jamaica doesn't have any large number of financial products there. He doesn't have a Trump Tower there. He doesn't care. So what do you do when the government doesn't care? And when the he shut down USAID, so we can't, you know, we're not sending money in for food, for programs. You know, we literally had hundreds of thousands of food products and HIV products, etc., to save kids' lives throughout half of the continent of Africa, and we let it sit and spoil. Then, and even in some cases in factories blocks away from where they need to be delivered, because he doesn't care about Jamaica and what's going on there. And you know, I would assume Winsome Earl Sears would. She's Jamaican immigrant. Maybe she's donating some of her. Maybe she should sell her AR-15s, you know, and send that money over there to Jamaica. You know, that.
All right, Doug, your thoughts about Jamaica?
It, like Ravi said, it is a tragedy. Trump doesn't care. Trump isn't going to care anything about any countries or islands that, quite frankly, in no way are going to help him make money or, you know, bring more white people to the United States of America like he's doing with South Africa. So it is a tragedy. You know, we all should be looking for ways to try to send aid down to Jamaica and maybe utilizing some of the organizations that Sharice had just mentioned, because they, you know, nothing hits those islands like a hurricane does.
Right.
And I remember those hurricanes rolling through. Harold, you and I maybe remember, I think it was Hurricane Hugo or something rolled through that island. Yeah, back in the late 80s. I was in college, and it was ridiculous. So, you know, nothing hits those islands like a hurricane. So we should definitely be doing everything within our power to try to help our brothers and sisters in Jamaica, because it is tough going down there.
Last point, I got to get this in. I'll start with you. You know, Sharice, this is something that that a lot of pundits were talking about. President Trump is talking about going in with guns blazing, threatening military action over the alleged killing of Christians in Nigeria. But the big question is, would the Trump administration give refugee status to Black Christians in Nigeria, just as he gave refugee status to white South Africans in South Africa this year? I'm rolling that softball up just for you, Sharice.
I mean, come on, Harold. This is hilarious. First off, we're talking about a man that said 2 Corinthians to talk about the about the massacre of Black Christians. I mean, come on now. You don't even know where the book of Corinthians is in the Bible, and you called it 2 instead of the second. Like, so let's just put that aside. Let's deal with the fact of, when we're talking about Nigeria, that we're talking about an oil-rich country that is the center in many ways of ECOWAS, which is a trade bloc that he's essentially trying to break, because that's what this is really about. And not only that, we just denied a visa to a prolific or prominent Nigerian just a couple of weeks ago. This has nothing to do with being friendly or unfriendly to Nigeria or Christians that are there being persecuted. This has everything to do with putting Nigeria on the main stage to be able to, in many ways, choke them out as one of the leaders of ECOWAS, which is a huge trade partner and bloc inside of Western Africa that is having negotiations over oil. Bottom line up front.
I'm going to let that be the last word. I think she put a fine point on that. I appreciate all of you, Dr. Sharice Nelson, Doug Sloan, Dr. Avi Perry. Thank you all so very, very much for participating. We will continue to watch. And again, as I said in the beginning, happy Election Day. We will also monitor how things are going with that. That is the Daily Drum for this Tuesday, November 4th. I'm Harold Fisher.